Yeah, at the time when this happened, the Montgomery family was devastated. That played out in front of thousands on their reality show on the Oprah Winfrey Network. Federal investigators say the murder for hire starts with Norman obtaining a $450,000 life insurance policy on his nephew back in 2014.
Andre told us. He told me. He said, "Mama, if anything happened to me, Uncle Tim did it." And he's still getting respect by saying Uncle Tim.
And federal investigators say Norman conspired with Terica Ellis, an exotic dancer.
Tim, as I was just saying, is extremely strong and optimistic.
I just don't see how anybody could kill a family member for money.
In the world of Black-owned business success stories, few were as beloved as Sweetie Pie's, the St. Louis soul food restaurant that became a national phenomenon. The show, Welcome to Sweetie Pie's, aired on OWN and gave audiences a warm, authentic look at family, faith, and entrepreneurship. But behind the smiles, the laughter, and the plates of fried chicken and mac and cheese, there was darkness brewing. A family betrayal so deep it would end in death. This is the story of James Timothy Norman.
It's day 6 of the murder trial, and TimNorman took to the stand to testify. He's been accused of being the mastermind behind the murder for hire trial to kill his nephew.
Founded by Robbie Montgomery, a former backup singer for Ike and Tina Turner, the restaurant symbolized perseverance. After retiring from music, Robbie turned her passion for soul food into a family business. In 2011, Welcome to Sweetie Pie's premiered on Oprah Winfrey's OWN network, quickly becoming one of its top-rated reality shows. At the center was TimNorman, Robbie's ambitious son, who helped manage the business and became a breakout reality TV personality. To viewers, Tim seemed like a dutiful son carrying his mother's legacy forward. But those who knew him best saw cracks, ambition turning into entitlement, and family love slowly replaced by resentment. Personally, I knew Tim was a problem the moment he sashayed his thick hips across my screen.
We spoke with customers of Sweetie Pie's about how they feel and their reaction.
I was appalled. I couldn't believe it. I just don't see how anybody could kill a family member for money, for no amount. And $450,000 is really not any money. You know, it's just, I'm appalled.
Before fame, tragedy had already touched the Montgomery family. Robbie's son, Andre Montgomery, had been executed years earlier in a robbery. His son and Robbie's grandson, Andre Montgomery Jr., an aspiring drill rapper, had grown up between St. Louis and Texas. Andre was a bright, soft-spoken young man who wanted to make his grandmother proud. Viewers remember him on Sweetie Pie's as a respectful, charming, and full of promise. But by 2014, tensions were growing between Tim and Andre due to Andre's involvement in minor legal battles. Then, in June 2015, a burglary took place at Miss Robbie's home where $200,000 in cash and valuables had been stolen. Andre left the area shortly after, which caused Tim to point the finger. In the roughly 10 months Andre was gone, he wasn't in contact with his family despite being active on social media where he posted with narcotics and weapons, leading Tim to continue pointing the finger at Andre, suggesting that he was responsible for the robbery. Miss Robbie had begged Andre to come back to St. Louis on several occasions, and in text, Andre pointed the finger right back at Tim for the robbery, and he also communicated to his grandmother that he feared for his safety. He also shared to his mother that if anything were to happen to him, his Uncle Tim did it. In October of that year, Tim and his insurance agent, Wael Yangam, submitted 4 separate life insurance policy applications, each of them containing false information regarding income, net worth, medical history, employment, amongst other things. One application filed by Yangam set the base policy at $249,999, which is just $1 below the trigger limit that would require Andre to take a medical exam. In March 2016, Andre returned to the St. Louis area to speak with detectives and take a polygraph test. County authorities cleared Andre of the robbery.
And prosecutors said Norman took out a life insurance policy on his 21-year-old nephew, Andre Montgomery. That policy was worth $450,000.
He then used a paramour to locate Mr. Montgomery and a co-defendant to fatally shoot and kill him. And within days of his nephew's murder, Mr. Norman started the process of getting the insurance company to pay the claim.
Tim, as I was just saying, is extremely strong and optimistic. I know it hurts to the bottom of his soul, but I think he remains optimistic like we do that we can undo this by way of post-trial motions and/or on appeal.
By 2015, the family business was struggling and Tim's financial troubles were mounting. He opened restaurants in North Hollywood, Berkeley, and Florissant, Missouri, all of which infringed on Miss Robbie's trademark. She alleged that Tim took money from her Manchester location to open these new locations, and when she demanded the money back, he refused. She had no choice but to file a lawsuit against her own son.
Police interviewed Andre Montgomery about the burglary. They cleared him as a suspect, and Montgomery claimed it was actually his uncle who orchestrated it. Montgomery told police Norman had motive and was upset that Miss Robbie was removing him from some business ventures. He told police, quote, Norman has the influence to set up the burglary and have someone else break in at his direction. 4 days after that police interview, Montgomery was dead.
On March 14, 2016, Andre Montgomery Jr. was shot and killed outside a small house on Natural Bridge Avenue in St. Louis. He was just 21 years old. At first, the situation seemed like another senseless killing in St. Louis until authorities began noticing a digital trail. Investigators discovered that cell phone records linked Tim to the killing, not because he pulled the trigger, but because of the coordination behind it. Phone records showed Tim's movements in the city that day. The phone of Terica Ellis, an exotic dancer he was romantically involved with, pinged in the same neighborhood as Andre minutes before the shooting, and text messages between her and Tim included location updates and coded confirmations. Meanwhile, Travell Anthony Hill, a local man, acted as the shooter.
March of 2016, federal investigators say Norman had been in contact with Memphis, Tennessee exotic dancer Terica Ellis leading up to the murder, with both arriving in St. Louis at the same time. Court docs show Ellis and Norman used prepaid cell phones to communicate on the day of the murder before locating the 18-year-old. That's where authorities say the gunman found Andre Montgomery in the 3600 block of Natural Bridge Avenue and shot him to death around 8:02 in the evening. Court docs say Ellis's phone was pinged in the area. Shortly thereafter, the exotic dancer fled St. Louis back to Memphis, calling Norman in the process.
By 2020, a federal grand jury had seen enough. Tim, Terica, and Travell were all indicted for conspiracy to commit murder for hire and wire fraud. Prosecutors later revealed that Terica had $9,000 deposited across several bank accounts, while Travell received $5,000.
On Tuesday, Norman was on the stand for hours during his testimony. Defense attorneys asked Norman if he had anything to do with the murder for his 21-year-old nephew, Andre Montgomery Jr. Norman answered, "No, sir." He testified that his nephew was present when the insurance application was being filled out by his insurance agent. He says he doesn't recognize the handwriting on the application. The defense attorney asked about one of the insurance agent's partners, and Norman says he does not know who that is, implying that they were the ones who filled out the forms and Tim was kept in the dark. He also denied ever relaying a message to the alleged shooter to kill his nephew. Norman said Andre was his brother's kid, and his brother died when Andre was a baby. So Norman said he decided to step in to be a role model and a father figure. Norman said he paid for Montgomery to go to music school, paid for the apartment, and gave him weekly allowance, providing groceries and clothes. Norman says that when he learned that his nephew stopped going to school and showing up for work, that's when Norman said Montgomery got kicked out of his apartment and he decided to cut him off financially. The defense also showed pictures of Montgomery posing with guns, and Norman said he was concerned about Montgomery's lifestyle, and Norman said it was suggested he should get a life insurance policy. The defense attempted to imply Andre was involved in gang activity, but the U.S. Attorney's Office successfully overrode it. Prosecutors will now have their turn to cross-examine Norman tomorrow morning.
The trial began in September 2022, and it was explosive. Prosecutors presented texts, cell phone tower data, insurance paperwork, and the testimony of co-conspirators. Terica testified that she felt manipulated and pressured by Tim, that he had told her he needed her help with a family matter.
Both Montgomery and Ellis are now federally charged in the conspiracy in the murder for hire. Montgomery was arrested in Jackson, Mississippi, as he was in the process of reopening another Sweetie Pie's location.
Truecrimedocumentary Hill, who pleaded guilty earlier, testified that he didn't know Andre personally, only that the man paying wanted his nephew gone.
There are new twists and turns in the murder-for-hire plot surrounding Sweetie Pie's restaurant. TimNorman is the son of Sweetie Pie's owner, Miss Robbie. He is accused of hiring a hitman to kill his nephew, Andre Montgomery. Initially, police thought it was directly linked to cashing in on a $450,000 life insurance policy. But we've now learned it might also be linked to a burglary at the home of Norman's mother, Miss Robbie. Her house was burglarized in 2015, and TimNorman blamed his nephew for the crime. Norman even started telling people his nephew would face retaliation. At one point, he texted his insurance agent, "He might not make it 6 months, bro. Not kidding."
The defense tried to argue that the insurance policy was simply bad paperwork, and that Norman had no motive to kill Andre, but the evidence was overwhelming. In March 2023, TimNorman was sentenced to life in federal prison, and rightfully so. At sentencing, Judge John A. Ross called the crime cold-blooded and beyond comprehension, emphasizing that Norman had exploited family trust for personal greed. Robbie Montgomery, Tim's mother, was not in the courtroom. She later released a statement thanking supporters and asking for prayers, saying, "I'm still Miss Robbie. I'm still Andre's grandmother, and I'm still Tim's mother. My faith will carry me through this."
Tell us about, first off, reaction to what's happened today. First thoughts.
Oh man. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Victory.
Yes.
Victory.
Yes.
Finally, I can breathe. 7 years I've been holding my breath. I can breathe. I can breathe. I can breathe.
I saw you after your victim statement that you looked at TimNorman. Tell me why you needed to do that, or what did that feeling when you were up there?
Because if I got to do life, he's going to do life. And I want him to know that I know that he did from the beginning. Andre told us. He told me. He said, "Mama, if anything happened to me, Uncle Tim did." And he still gave me respect by saying Uncle Tim. So that's what that was. To let him know I see you. I've been seeing you for the longest. So
Tell us about were you thinking it was going to be a life sentence, or were you worried that potentially it would have been less?
I wasn't worried. I knew God was in control. And I knew that he was going to get what he's supposed to get. And he got exactly what he deserved.
I know it will never bring your son back, but do you feel in a way your son also said about from the beginning, you were the one calling, persisting, hoping to get that justice. Does today feel like you got justice?
Yes. Justice was served. Justice was served. Our justice for our Andre, he got his justice. He's not a statistic. It's a well-known fact that he got his justice.
Terica Ellis was sentenced to 3 years, and Truecrimedocumentary Hill received 32 years after cooperating with prosecutors. The fall of TimNorman destroyed more than just a family. It shattered a legacy that once symbolized Black success. Welcome to Sweetie Pie's was built on love, resilience, and generational wealth. But what the public didn't see was the toxic ambition festering beneath the surface. A man who wanted fame and money more than family loyalty. Since the verdict, Sweetie Pie's original location has closed its doors, and Robbie Montgomery has largely stepped out the spotlight. What remains are reruns, once heartwarming, now haunting, showing a family that had everything the world admired, but nothing that could save them from betrayal within. The TimNorman case isn't just another crazy crime story. It's a tragedy about trust, greed, and the illusion of family success. It's about how ambition, when unchecked, can turn into destruction. How someone raised in love could plan the death of his own blood for a payout that would never come. Andre Montgomery Jr.'s name deserves to be remembered, not for the scandal, but for the life that was stolen from him. And the Sweetie Pie's legacy, once a symbol of Black entrepreneurship, now serves as a cautionary tale. Even when success seems like a dream, darkness can be hiding just behind the kitchen door. If you enjoy the content on this channel, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, and check out the videos on the screen. I'm your host, Park Jones, and I'll catch you on the next one.